Hello and welcome to the first in a series of videos which look at Citizenship GCSE studies. Now the specification that my school follows is AQA, but I'm guessing that the actual specification across the various exam boards varies very little, so it won't make much of a difference. So the first of my videos in this series is looking at the question of what is citizenship. Right, so I think the first thing to say is that we rarely talk about citizenship, not necessarily because it isn't important, because obviously it is, but because it's very often taken for granted. For the vast majority of us, we were born and our lives have been spent in a single country, and as such, we've never really questioned what it is to be a citizen of that state. In other words, we kind of take being a citizen of a particular state for granted. Okay, so the next thing is that being a citizen is so important that it's recognised in Article 15 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And that states that everyone has the right to a nationality, and second, that no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of their nationality nor denied the right to change their nationality. Now, what does that mean? Well, basically, the United Nations, as you probably know, was formed after World War II and as a direct consequence of the atrocities that took place during that war. So one of the things that this Universal Declaration of Human Rights does is to give every single human a series of rights and at the same time responsibilities, and it outlines what those rights should be. And clearly one of the rights that they felt was very important was that everyone should have the right to a nationality. So you might want to look at how Jewish people were treated in World War II, and that everyone should have the right, basically, not to be deprived of that nationality, or if they need to change their nationality. Now, that second bit is slightly controversial because as we'll see, you can't sort of change your nationality on a whim. Okay, so the next section is, or the next question we might want to say is, well, if you can change your nationality, can I choose to become a US citizen, or for that matter, a citizen of any other country, if you want to? Well, the answer is slightly complicated. The answer is basically yes and no. Being born in a certain country may not necessarily make you a citizen of that country. For example, you could be the son or daughter of illegal immigrants, and as a result of that, that country's laws may not recognise your right to be a citizen. Equally, if you want to change citizenship, you will need to satisfy that country that you qualify to be a citizen. And now the UK government has a checklist that you can look at, and there's a link which, if you want to have a look at that link, feel free to go and do so, and it will tell you how you can become a British citizen. Okay, so perhaps you've checked the link, perhaps you already know that you're a British citizen, so what? Well, for starters, I'm going to say that you're very lucky. You might not necessarily feel it, but you're now a citizen of the 6th largest economy in the world. And you might be quite surprised about that. For a fairly small country, we're extremely wealthy, although it's got to be said that that wealth is not distributed as equally as we might like. You basically have access to free healthcare, education, etc. So all of those things that you might take for granted and which other countries are fairly envious of. However, in return, you basically agree to abide by the laws of that state. So you've basically agreed to abide by the laws of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, the fact that we're so wealthy, the fact that we have free healthcare and education, etc., may well help you to start to understand why people choose to either move here legally as an immigrant or illegally, in the case of an illegal immigrant who comes here to seek work. What you shouldn't confuse that with is refugees. So a refugee is someone who would not necessarily choose to come to England, but has tried to come to England basically because they believe that their life is in imminent danger. The next question, I guess, is can your citizenship be taken away? And again, the answer is not easily. As you've seen, the United Nations basically says that you have a right to a nationality and that cannot be arbitrarily removed. However, having your nationality or citizenship taken away, it's not unknown. The best example of this is someone called Shamima Begum. Shamima Begum left the UK at the age of 15 to join the Islamic State. When she joined the Islamic State, she renounced the UK citizenship, and in turn, Britain basically took her citizenship away. When the Islamic State collapsed through sustained campaigns by the Allies, bombing cities, etc., she appealed to return to the UK. But basically, she's lost the right to return to the UK to fight the government's decision. Now, the Shamima Begum decision is fairly controversial. Her supporters claim that she was brainwashed as a child and that she fell foul of ISIS propaganda. Others argue that no, she knew fully what she was doing and remains a danger to the public. And again, you might want to consider what you think, and also when you're preparing for your citizenship exam, to be able to argue from two different points of view, even though you might not necessarily agree with one of them. Right then, so how do you become a UK citizen? Say, for example, you want to move to the UK and you want to apply for citizenship. For most of us, we automatically qualify. I mean, you could, as I say, refer to that list that I had the link to earlier. However, if you move to the UK, you need to prove a few things. One of the things is that you can speak English, and you'll have to take a qualification to demonstrate that. Secondly, you'll have to have a decent job. Again, this is quite controversial because there is a limit as to how little you can earn, and some jobs where we actually need people, for example, nursing or teaching, they may not make the financial limit to come to the UK to take up citizenship. But you also need to undertake a really controversial test. It's called Life in the UK. It cost £50 and asks 24 questions in 45 minutes about Britain. And I think you've got to get about 3/4 of those right. So if my maths is correct, that's about 18. However, some people have said that this is nothing better than a really bad pub quiz. For example, it might ask you who the Queen's grandchildren are, and something like, if you spill someone's drink in a pub, what should you do? So the idea of testing someone about their Britishness doesn't necessarily make a good deal of sense. In fact, there are various practice questions you can do online, and in my experience, having tested classes on the various questions, most people who are born in the UK do really, really badly. Okay, so I hope this short video gives you some idea about what citizenship is and is helpful in outlining some of the issues that we're going to look at in later videos.